Hey everyone, I want to do a little different video today. I got myself an Ecamm E2-S6. It's a Super 35 square type cinema camera, and I sold one of my XT3s as a entry point into the cinema world. So this is relatively affordable in the sense that the cinema cameras can be really expensive. So I'm doing a little unboxing at this point. And the box is pretty simple, just a simple box. Got some manuals, and that's it. That's the brain. That is the Ecamm E2-S6. It's an all metal body. It looks like it comes with a Wi-Fi antenna, which is quite big, and I got a smaller one later. Some cables, and more cables. And I think this world is a little bit different for me because all the stuff in the cinema world is quite different from what I'm used to in photography. So right here I'm checking out the camera body, and it's a solid design. Lots of mounting points, so you can mount things directly, but I'm going to put it in a cage pretty soon. Here I am, I'm putting in a CFast card. So this type of media is really expensive. I'm finding, like, unlike SD cards that I'm used to in the photography world, CFast cards are really expensive. I got a Silicon Power, I think it's like an off-brand style. And in the user group, people are pretty happy with it. I'm fumbling a little bit, trying to learn how to use it for the first time. And along with that, I got myself a cinema lens. What's different with cinema lenses, they're usually standard sizes. They're rigged for matte boxes in the front. And this is an IRIX 45 millimeter. It's a full frame lens. I know I'm putting into a Super 35, but the intention is at some point in the future I can upgrade my setup into full frame. So that's what I'm going for now. I'm unboxing this amazing lens. It's made by this, I think it's a European company. I can't remember where they're from. But this lens is huge, massively heavy. Is it 3 pounds? I think it's almost 3 pounds. So it makes the rig really heavy. I'm gonna have to lift some weights just to carry this thing around. So there it is, all wrapped up in plastic. And check it out, 45 millimeter. It's a little odd focal range, but that's okay with me. Lots of complaints with the hood and the magnetic hood mount. I'm not going to use the hood. It's probably going to throw it in a box somewhere. It's my first time using Canon EF mounts. I came from the Fuji system, so I'm just learning how this all works. Massive lens right there. Declicked aperture ring, really long throw in the focus. And so here I am for the first time trying to figure out how to mount. It's got a locking EF mount, so I believe you rotate that, line up the dots, and then you twist the locking ring. So again, I think in the cinema world, these mounts are designed to be much more robust because we're putting on bigger lenses. You gotta do it fast, so unlike photography lenses, just a different world. And I'm learning about it. I don't know anything about this world. I'm coming from no experience. Now here's a really basic setup. You can just throw on a Sony NPF battery and you're basically good to go. You can actually start filming at this point. There is no monitor, right? So this is the interesting thing with cinema cameras. The kit is not ready to go. You have to bring your own parts. You have to rig it all up. And it kind of reminds me of kind of in the 80s when I was building computers. And so with this setup here, you can power it on. I think I'm powering it on for the first time. And unlike photography cameras, there's a power up boot time, which I think for this camera is actually really fast compared to other Reds or whatnot. I'm trying to click on the touch screen because I'm so used to it. No touch screen, so you got to use the buttons. And that tiny screen is just a very basic rudimentary menu system, which is actually quite good. You can do a lot of fun things just in that menu system. And I got it sitting on my desk right here, just admiring it for a little bit before I kind of start rigging it out. There's a top panel that I got from Smallrig. It's like a little small top panel. I'm adding on a NATO rail to that top panel. So later on, I'm going to use a NATO rail mount to attach my Atomos Ninja 5, Ninja V. And there's the Smallrig Cage. I spray painted it yellow to kind of match my brand colors. And here I'm fumbling a little bit, trying to figure out how to get this thing mounted. And it's just new stuff, but you get used to it. You know how to start figuring out how to rig things out and attaching the right parts. So this top panel just mounted with quarter 10 and 20 screws. There's a bunch of mounting points all along this cage. And I think the Zcam body doesn't really need a cage because it has all those mounting points, but I'm throwing on a cage just because I can. Here's the base plate I have from my previous camera, so I'm disassembling it, taking it apart, and just taking scrap parts. There's the Manfrotto plate from my tripod, and starting to assemble this Smallrig base plate. This design's kind of funky. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with it in the long run, but it's what I got for now, so I'm using what I have. And I think a lot of this is really just figuring out where the screw holes go, what's the right order of operation. And I think from a learning perspective, you got to just put in your hours, like do a lot of this. And so there is with rails. Eventually I'm going to put a lens support to kind of hold up that lens, which is quite heavy and front heavy. So the setup right now is incredibly front heavy. It's out of balance. And here I am. I finally got the Smallrig ZBack. It's just a hunk of metal that protrudes out the back of the Zcam. And I'm trying to use these M4 screws, which are incredibly tiny. Good thing I have small hands, but still, I'm going to need to get like a long driver to work on this. I'm using just the Allen wrench that came with it. Painfully slow, a little hard to kind of get those tiny screws to line up in the 4 pins in the back of the Zcam. There we go. I'm getting ready to mount it for the first point. And you just gotta, I think you gotta just get one to line in. Really don't want to cross those threads. You know, screw yourself over, ruin your camera. And so what this ZBack does is it kind of protrudes back and it protects all the wires coming in the back because you do have a lot of exposed wires. And if you're running around, it's a potential damage point. Here I am just trying to get into that little tiny space and getting that tiny M4 screw to tighten up. And you get 4 of them. And awkwardly, it's really far in the back, but fortunately this is a one-time setup. There's a mini Wi-Fi antenna cable rather than the stock one that came with it. Got this on Amazon. And so this Wi-Fi cable allows you to connect your camera to your smartphone and it projects out a signal. So we'll see how the cage in this new metal box, actually, I wonder how the signal is going to be for Wi-Fi. Got a Kondor Blue cable. I think, so different in this world, Zcam uses what's called a LEMO 2-pin power cable, which goes to my D-tap to a V-mount battery. And I'm just not used to it. I'm learning how to connect and align these pins, and it's a little bit of a learning curve. You know, I'm really fast with my other cameras and kind of in the space. And these cables, I think coming into a cinema world, these cables are expensive. Okay. And you see with that ZBack, it has all these little holes where you can kind of route things around. This cable is a control cable. So there's 2 serial control cables coming out of the Zcam. I'm using one of them, which runs up to my Atomos Ninja V, Ninja 5, and that goes into the little control port right there. So I can control my Zcam from the Ninja V screen. Again, awkwardly, these are tiny little pins. I don't want to break them, but so I'm taking my time here. This is the clutch handle revolver on the right. Really, really nice handle. And that, I believe, is a Sony link cable. So I got to run that into the Z cam control port. So from there I can control, I believe, shutter, ISO, trigger, stop, start, record. And this is kind of just like a cable routing exercise, right? Just trying to minimize exposed cable. Got a really long HDMI port. And here I am. I kind of wish I could get this Sony NPF battery in as a backup, but the way this cage is designed and with the HDMI, there is no room once you put the cage in, so that you can't get this battery in. So I'm going to route the excess wire, HDMI wire, and leave it sitting in that box. I'm going to make it go out of this back port right here. And then that goes on top into the HDMI. Now this is full-size HDMI. I came from the photography world, and everything in the Fuji system is these micro tiny HDMI ports, and I broke one once, and it's an expensive repair. There's the back mounting plate. It's kind of like a little cheese plate, 4 M4 screws. Now this version, I think, of the ZBack requires these screws. I think there's another version coming out that might be a quick release. What I don't like about this is if I ever need to get in there, put a new cable, I gotta unscrew 4 tiny screws. It's gonna take forever. And it just takes a while. Two more at the bottom. And don't lose these screws. So you see the blue cable, that's the D-tap battery cable that's dangling out. It's a little bit long, so I can tuck it into that ZBack space. And that's what's the benefit of this whole thing, is that you have space to kind of tuck cables away. This is the NITSI V-mount plate. So coming out of it gives you 2 D-tap plates and then 2 DC ports. So you can throw on a V-mount battery and then everything gets powered. Right now the Atomos Ninja V is connected via Sony battery. I'm going to get a D-tap cable and power it all through the V-mount battery. So 2 long 1/4 screws mounts onto that back plate. And one of the benefits is what this is going to do is that battery, because it's so far protruded back, it's going to create that counterbalance. And so the whole rig actually gets quite balanced. Although it gets a little bit bigger, it gets balanced. And I'm learning to use the weight of the rig to do more handheld shots. And so it's sitting on top of a really nice Manfrotto tripod. It's a video tripod with the fast twist system. And this is an FXLION Nano. I think it's a 48 something V-mount battery. And I got to do some practice, right? Because I don't use these batteries very often. And just as part of practice, you get better at it. So this D-tap cable goes in there, and it powers the camera. And I can power other things just tapping into that power source, which is awesome. So there's the rig. It's quite balanced. And powering it on, just giving it a test run. And there it is on the other side. We do a little tucking using these Sprig plastic cable ties. And it's just making the whole system set up. And you see, we're using my brand colors of red, blue, and yellow. So that's the setup. Thanks for watching.